Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Now That We Have Children, What Do We Do? I'm telling you, that topic is evolving. I would love to hear your comments below. What should we call our podcast? All right, so we'll be talking about everything children, how to train them up, how to train them up in womanhood, manhood. I mean, how to train up ourselves. Parents, we'll talk a bit about parents as well because this goes hand in hand, of course. And I'm Juanita, your host, and I'm excited about today and about what we're going to talk about. Now, we will be talking about our why. Why do we train our children? Why are we even bothering to do this? Yes, it is amazing. We enjoy well behaved children, but when we get home from work or if we have a very busy day and we are tired and the energy is really low, the emotions are really high, that we had a bad day, even when we don't have a bad day, but we're just tired. What do we lean into? What do we tell ourselves to just, spare that next minute, that next energy, that next willingness to be consistent with our children and not just kind of pawn them off to a screen or give them whatever they are fussing about so that they can be quiet and we can just have peace. We don't want to do that because we are planting seeds that later we don't want to reap. And so we want to look into why do this. Now, I'm a Christian, and so most of my rationale, whatever causes me to keep going, tends to come from the scriptures. And for those of us who are not no are not Christians, you definitely need a why, because there are going to be many days when it's so difficult to be consistent, and you need something to be consistent because you will reap the fruit of not training. All right. So training is key. I'm going to be looking down from time to time because I want to make sure not to miss what I have for you today. Training is key, right? And it is kind of like the theme throughout the Bible, actually. And so it talks about training children, it talks about training yourself, it is shown in many, many areas of the Bible. It's telling you about lifelong lessons, spiritual growth, moral discipline, and all those things. That's how we kind of get to be better when we are not doing well in character and so on. In the Bible, and many other leadership books and success books. If you look at any John C. Maxwell books, any kind of leadership books and success books, persons who have raised themselves from failure to success, training is often symbolizes in these books. It's shown like as a process of growth and a process of character development, and it is how it shapes us and matures us. This process, this training, it's so important for development, for character development. And guess what, our children are no different. They even more, because they are younger than us, they need training. And so training for me and discipline, I have been exposed a lot to children rearing that had mostly to do with reactive parenting. When they do something wrong, then I spring it on them. This it I mean, I used to kind of be caught off guard, almost like this is wrong, kind of a thing, because there was no initial lessons, there was no teaching up front to say this is what will be expected. So I say, okay, this is what is expected. If I don't do it, this happens, and if I do it, it's going to be awesome, or I'm going to become this person. And so I really prayed a lot about that. That impacted me. I would need a lot of training. Even myself, I didn't have any reference of, I just share a little bit of my testimony. I didn't have any reference of being a wife or being a mother. A lot of those things, I didn't have that reference because I was I'm from a kind of a broken home. And so in many in many regards, I would have to have trained up myself, or leaning into the scripture. I'm still doing it today. I'm in the middle of my story, and so I'm just going to be sharing with you. And so training is something very important. That every uh, job area that you pursue, everything that you'd like to do with yourself, with your life, even gardening. If you don't know how to do it, if you didn't apprentice your grandmother or your grandfather, you have no idea. And so you'd have to research, you'd have to try, you would have to start something, you would have to look for what needs to be done, set up your area, and you would have to get planting, and you would have to diligently care for those plants or care for that food that you are growing. And so in everything we need training to be able to be equipped, to be able to grasp morals, to be able to have wisdom and knowledge, and to face challenges and adversary. So that's very important. And we don't want to forget that. We don't want our children, when we are not with them, when they are not with us, they are unable to overcome challenges, overcome adversary. And so when we fail to be faithful in training them, this is what we are doing to them. So it might seem peaceful at first. They're crying for something, it's not something you want to give them now, but for peace sake, you just kind of let them have it. And this constantly kind of repeats itself, because I'm too tired tonight, I don't want to take this on, I don't want to take on the tantrum. It continues and continues. And then when they need to face challenges, when they're out in the workforce, when they're at college, when they have relationships, they are overcome by adversities, they're overcome by challenges, they are unaware of the wisdom it takes to put somebody first, and all of those things, which I'm also learning still in this season. But with our children, I believe that if we establish not necessarily authority, but yes, also authority, but if we set them up for success, we establish the expectations, and we train them, especially at home, where in a time when perhaps the consequence is not yet, or something, training them in a time where we make up a game around this particular moral. And then if they fail it, we don't have to instill deep um punishment at that time or whatever, nothing too severe then, because now we are practicing, and we practice and practice, they get it right. When we're headed out, we set the expectations, we talk about it, and set them up for success. I want to read some verses from scripture for you. Well, I will be paraphrasing some of them, so you kind of get the idea of the fact that the Bible talks about training constantly. In Proverbs 22:6, it tells us to train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. And it is true, it's true for even us when we go out to any kind of training. Once we find it beneficial, once it, especially if it is a long or natural bent, and this particular scripture is talking about that. You are teaching children how to live in harmony with each other, to operate as a team member on the team and to do well, but also finding out what's their personality type, what they were shaped to do, what are their talents, and train those up. And also, because that's a part of our responsibility, helping to identify this, helping to train them up in their area of their natural bent and giftings, so that it will be installed, so that they will be able to operate so well, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. Hebrews 12:11 tells us that no chastening seems joyous at the present, but grievous. It's not nice at first, but afterwards it brings peaceable fruit of righteousness for those who exercise it. So sometimes when you need to correct your child, it doesn't feel joyous at the time, or it just feels like it takes too much energy. And also, especially for them, it will not feel nice. It will not feel awesome. They won't feel happy about it. However, if they comply, if they listen, if they submit, if they take it to heart, it transforms them. Deuteronomy 6:7, it says, "You shall teach your children diligently, and your children they will, and you will talk to them. You will she's when you will talk to them when you sit in the house. You will talk to them when you walk by the way. You will talk to them when you lie down and when you rise up. So it's telling you, it's talking about teaching your children diligently. This is one of the things that we can be grateful to God about. He is very diligent to convict us of sin, very diligent to show us the way, right? And He is consistent. He is not expecting this over here today and next week kind of just let it slide, right? And so we can count on His diligence. And as parents, we need our children need to be able to count on our consistency as it relates to training them up and guiding them, putting them on the path every single time that they get off. So we have to get in consistency. Proverbs 29:17, it says, correct your son, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will give you delight to your soul. And so you will see the fruit of it when you install these trainings, wisdom, knowledge, when you help them to have the right morals and values, you'll see the fruit of it. People will praise you. When they go out, they will get favor at work and with persons. I'm telling you, you are going to be proud of them and you will be proud of you. So we are fighting for the mindset. We are fighting for the energy and the willingness, that one last push up to get that benefit. If you are exercising and you want to get in, what that last push up, that last sit up to get what benefit comes, right? And so we're going to be doing that. So I mean, that is one of the things that I've had to lean into as it relates to a mindset, to be consistent. The truth is, I mean, my husband, I think he's so much more diligent to recognize and see their slip so he can call them out, bring it to their attention, correct and guide them. And sometimes, I'll say, honey, you have to pick your battles. And in some sense, you might have to, in the sense of, if it's not something that would hurt them, if they're being allowed to play outside one last time for another 5 minutes or something. But when they are in danger, when something is happening, you have to be very, and danger might not be having a knife or something, an utensil that they take up by mistake or was out of place, or running out in the street. But danger can be the consistency of a bad behavior that's going to set them up for a downfall, or ruin their play dates and their times with others. And you don't want that. And that's also danger, for them to grow up with a character that is not lovely, that persons don't want to be around. So one important tip that I have for you today, coming out of knowing that training is important, knowing that we can rely on God for consistency in His training, and He expects that of us when He gives us these wonderful children that we've prayed for. So I want us as parents to think about the things that you would like your children to know, your child to know. What kind of person do you want them to be? And or you can think of what area do they struggle with. This is just to get started. As you see this area, then you're going to pick a few of them. For example, being honest, selflessness, patient perhaps, being a team player, for example, any of those things. And then you're going to set an alarm on your clock, maybe you will set it for 3 or 4 times per week when you are driving to take them to school. That's a good time for setting the alarm, or when they're being picked up in the morning is fresh, so that's good too. You can set it for that time, and maybe 4 times for the week. You're going to be talking about honesty for the entire month. Remember, life is short, but it's also long. Most times it seems short and you've missed opportunities because we keep putting the things off. But once we are diligently doing it, if you do that 3 or 4 times for the week, right? for a whole month. You're talking about honesty, giving them examples. If you want to use from the Bible, that's perfect. Giving you, what's also important is sharing with them your life, things that they may not know have known about when you were growing up and stuff like that. Something happened, you can share with them a time that you told a lie when you were a child, and how that was on your conscience, or when you were found out, how you got in trouble, and just growing up, how that is not good. We should not refrain from talking to them. Remember, Deuteronomy says when we walk, we should talk to them, when we lay down, when we rise up, when we sit down in the house. And so it's telling us to have this constant relationship with our children. Now, oftentimes we are busy, so we don't remember, and that's why I believe you should take the time to set the alarm in your in. If you need to remember to hug and kiss them every day and say I love you, set an alarm. Right? Set an alarm in your phone and don't snooze it. Respond to it. So in the morning, you're driving out to work 3-4 times a week. You're talking about being a team player, giving them examples, being patient, giving them examples for the whole month. You're talking about that. And you can evolve it, bring it back in next year in October, the same time, that whole month, that whole September, that whole October, and talk to them about it again. So after a while, you would have touched on a lot of character areas. You would have addressed some of the things that they're struggling with, and you would have spent time with them even though you are busy. And so that's what I want to share with us today. It's a wrap, pretty much. It has been a great time hanging out with you. Remember to like, to share, and subscribe. Anyone you think this particular video would benefit. And yes, join us again on the next episode. I'm Juanita, and I had a wonderful time with you today. And remember, we are straining towards the mark to have well-behaved children, so that we can be proud of them, they can be proud of themselves, and that we would set them up for success. See you next time.